Good evening. It is now 2 minutes past 9:30. I was watching a very important program scientifically. But this is about lobster, red lobster. And it's only going to be about red lobster. You're going to hear some other restaurant names being thrown around a little bit. Some I've heard of, some I have not heard of. Some you have heard of, probably not heard of, probably in your part of town. But how did Red Lobster start? I think that's the most important part, the person. It started by a person. I've read and reread this stuff over and over again. First of all, I would like to thank Wikipedia. I do give to Wikipedia. I'm planning to give again. I'm just throw that in there right now. I think you should give to them. I'm not endorsing anything. They're not give me anything. It's just something that I need to do. The late Bill Darden, or the late William Darden. Darden Restaurants. I'm going to start off with that. Darden Restaurants Incorporated from Orlando, Florida. He helped start that. Of course, his name is a multi-brand American business company. You've heard of Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, maybe not. I've never eaten there, but there are some around here in California. Yard House, I think I ate there once, maybe twice. Eddie V's, I don't think I ever heard of Eddie V's. And of course, you heard of Olive Garden. That's what I said. Olive Garden. Darden Enterprises own a whole bunch of places. And I could not believe it myself. But at 19 years old, 19, he started his first restaurant. Now, I want you to hear this real well. I'm not going to get off into some of the other things you talk about, but he started first restaurant called the Green Frog. And the slogan was service with the hop. Can you get that? Service with the hop. Green Frog. 19 years old. Now, I admire people. I think a lot of people who start restaurants, everyone's a hero in their own sort of way. And you have to have, I think, a strong work ethic, as well as smarts, and knowing what to do and how to run a restaurant. Of course, you see, many people start off with lemonade on the street. But he was born in Georgia. And one thing about his, I think it's probably the same time that he started his restaurant in Georgia. He was against the state laws at that time. Now, we're talking about civil rights a little bit. I'm not going to get off into that. That's somebody else's thing. That's not my thing. But his restaurant, when he started his restaurant, he refused to separate. Segregate is separate. Anyone who wants to come to his restaurant. I think that is the beginning of success right there. Now, a lot of people do not know this. That's why I really am into the history of food, not just eating it now. I don't know how I did this or why I'm doing this. It's just a part of me now. 1968, I'm not going to go into too much, but 1968, he started first Red Lobster. 1968. Heck, I just finished high school. 1968. And it was called the Red Lobster Inn in the beginning. Red Lobster Inn changed to Red Lobster. Now, of course, we can go talk about a whole bunch of other kind of stuff, but I plan to kind of immerse some other kinds of things in there. But the Red Lobster restaurant was started in Lakeland, Florida. Lakeland, Florida. An inland city, that they call it. Of course, I'm reading some of this verbatim. And he was inspired by Gary's Duck Inn, an Orlando seafood restaurant. So Darden started this restaurant started some restaurants in 1963 with some partners. That's what it says. And he opened a lot of other restaurants like, before he opened up the Red Lobster, it seems. He had some dealings in 1970 with General Mills. He purchased a franchise, an offer to purchase a franchise, rather. And he also became executive of General Mills Company at one time. So that tells you a lot. Now, I know back in the, I believe, 70s, part of the 80s, I can think back going to Red Lobster and you had to wait an hour to get some food, sometimes 2 hours. And one of the main ones that I'm talking about was in Torrance, California. I don't know what day it was. It was a special day. It could have been Mother's Day. It probably was Mother's Day or Easter. One of those 2 days. But definitely I used to go to that Red Lobster quite a few times before probably going to any other Red Lobster because that's the only one I knew about at that time, being as young as I was. Getting there, driving around, trying different kind of places, going with the family, trying to find a great place to eat. But they also talk about that he left a positive influence to a lot of people. Now, I can really go into a whole bunch of stuff here. Not necessarily. I think I said that 2 or 3 times, right? Trying to break the intermittent flow of what I have to say. The Red Lobster today filed for bankruptcy. And it's amazing how they've been around just as long as some of the other restaurants. I'm going to call them big time family restaurants. They were semi-expensive for the time that when we went. But they keep talking about the endless shrimp thing, the endless shrimp. It had more to do with businesses being conglomerated, I would say, and bought by different other kinds of people. And I feel that a lot of these restaurants have been through a hard time. Of course, the pandemic has a lot to do with it. They even had something called some kind of lobster fest. I think I kind of remember lobster fest. I wasn't really eating lobster that time, but they had lobster fest. And filing for bankruptcy and tells you right then and there that there were closures, a lot of closures. And I found out a new term in my minor research called stalking horse agreement. As a result of bankruptcy, stalking horse agreement, I'm going to try to explain it as best way as I can being a working person and and getting my feet wet, trying to talk about these different kinds of things that I never really talk about before, except for behind the scenes with regular folk, not someone who's really into economics, buying and selling of businesses. But the stalking horse agreement is when you end up bankruptcy, I believe some other company or conglomerate purchases the company, so to speak, not all the way, but they have all the goods and services, utensils, whatever, stoves or whatever is a part of the restaurant or business, which makes it go, okay? So it gives the company a chance to come back. Because they bought the company, but it's like kind of like a lease thing, you know? They bought it, they're in charge. But if you don't survive it, then they can buy it. So Red Lobster is going through this change where someone else has kind of like bought them, but they have a fence around it. No other company can oh, that's what it is, a bid. The other company makes a bid, but no one can underscore that bid. Now there is a process where other companies can do it, but they got it locked down now. But there is certain other kind of ways that I read that some other companies can do it, but they do it in such a way first so that some other company cannot pull the rug out from under their feet and make another bid and knock them out. So the shrimp thing is only a small piece of this massive puzzle. So Red Lobster, like all the other restaurants, and this is about Red Lobster, there's a lot of other little bitty things that all these companies must go through, procedures, obligations, and if they don't make it, if they fail, then they go by the wayside. So what's going to happen to Red Lobster? That is going to be the big question mark. The beginning, a man who started at 19 years old, he started on his own. They talk about Darden restaurants, but Red Lobster, I believe, from what I've been reading, is the main baby that kept us eating. It was the American dream, American enterprise, and maybe, just maybe, American failure. But it's not failing in of itself. It's falling down and trying to get back up because of the circumstances that surround it. A lot of other restaurants, a lot of other businesses, you can't make the change fast enough. There are mistakes being made. They come back. And I'm still trying to get on here and find the other part of what I want to stretch this a little bit longer because there's some other things. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, here it is. This is why, instead of me running on and on and on, let me get down to the meat, meat and potatoes of the whole damn thing, okay? Oh boy. Harbor for seafood lovers. Let me see. Boy, I tell you, there is a lot of different. Okay, Red Lobster entered Canada in the 1980s. Oh yeah, now I remember. In the 1980s, Canada, Red Lobster. Now there was some restaurants. There were some restaurants back in the day. I'm gonna say the 1980s, the late 1980s, that were around. Now, a lot of you, maybe depending on how old you are, heard of the Ponderosa restaurant. I think I went to one. One was in Culver City, California, right near Fox Hills Mall. Down the street, I believe Jefferson, going toward Jefferson. If you're from the Los Angeles area, you know where I'm talking about. Right on the edge. The Ponderosa. I remember eating there one time. So he actually had owned one of those restaurants or was a part of that chain. Ponderosa, I'm trying to think of the movie. Well, the Ponderosa, I believe, was can I think of it? Can I think of it? Can I think of it? I probably should have wrote that one down too, but I wanted to do it this way because there is so much stuff here. Well, anyway, he is late. He did die in 1994, age of 75. Ponderosa restaurant locations. Yes, okay. I'm gonna leave it there at the Ponderosa. Anything to do. I think that I think Ponderosa was started by the guy who played Hoss. I believe it was the Big Valley. It could have been the Big Valley or one of the other places, movies, not places, movies. But it is a place, the Big Valley. Well, anyway, I'm gonna end it right there. But you can get most of this information, like I said, on Wikipedia. To me, the most important part is who started it, and it's always after they pass on. Not a lot of time, but when you're talking about years and years ago, before the 1950s, and then they lived past that, and how strong the business acumen was, you can understand sometimes that the current changes of the day, 50 years later, 60 or 70 years later, is not the same. The climate is not the same. There's one other thing I want to say I just saw too. They were one of the original Cheddar Bay biscuits. That was developed, Red Lobster. Cheddar Bay biscuits, 1992. developed by culinary leader Kurt Hankins. So there were a few, or shall I say, a couple of food items. There's one other one, not gonna worry about that one. But the cheddar bay biscuits that everyone like, especially in the Olive Garden, that, that is the only one I'm gonna mention in the same name because they both were owned by Darden Enterprises. And the Darden Enterprises right now is still around. So with that in mind, this is Robert Deschamps. He and hawing his way through this because it's just so much information about Red Lobster's beginning. And the current affair is more than likely they probably won't be around. That's what some people think. Or more than likely, there'll be only a few around, like some of the other places that have moved on. Just the other day, I thought there was one that closed up. Looked like the parking lot was empty. I passed by today. I said, well, let me see, because if it is closed, I'm going to take a picture of it. I saw a bunch of cars there, so it's not closed yet. So with that in mind, being a person who eat more food, going out more than he ever has, and getting involved in this type of symmetry is indeed something that I can rely on in telling other people about, even if I'm reading it, taking a few notes on it. Give as much as I can. I'll see you in my next video. You might hear some other stuff about Red Lobster, but it definitely will be another restaurant on a big scale live. I got some more information about some other foods that I'm going to talk about first thing in the morning that I did not know about. I'll see you in my next video, folks. And you have a great, great evening. Red Lobster, beginning or ending. We all should be able to think about where's our next meal going to come from? Family outing, birthdays, wedding, just celebrating.